Which aspect of married life makes you want to stay single? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. Overall, I love being married. The thing I probably missed the most is when I was single, I cleaned the house and it stayed clean. Now, it stays clean for about 5 minutes. He doesn't throw away little bits of trash from packaging. Won't do the hand wash dishes until enough have built up so that he feels it's worth his time. Clothes on the floor next to the hamper, and it's like he needs an emotional support beer can on his nightstand. I love the man to pieces. He has many amazing qualities. He's a wonderful father, but good grief, he's messy. Some of the blame is on his mom though, because she's the exact same way. Her house is a nightmare and she said I keep my house too clean. Story 2. Not having any totally personal space. I lived alone before I met my husband, and I still miss that feeling of closing the front door and knowing I had every room to myself. Similar to that, it's not having a personal schedule. Sometimes, I want to not eat or think about dinner. Sometimes I want to just stand by the fridge and eat 5 mouthfuls of leftovers at 5 p.m., then not eat anything again until 9 p.m. when it's just some other version of an unplated snack. Sometimes on the weekend, I want to just get up, go to the couch, then go back to bed, or whatever. Basically, those times when you want to just not think about anything and just live your life like a goldfish. No forethought at all, just doing what is right in the moment. That's much harder to do when you're worried you'll look crazy, or when you're always trying to coordinate a daily life with someone else. Story 3. I'm pretty minimal when it comes to possessions. I don't like to have a lot of stuff that I have to organize and keep track of. Being married though, and having kids, means having to live in a house with so much stuff. I also think it's a lot easier to manage money by myself, as I can get by on relatively little. If I was out on my own, I'd grab a sandwich and drink from a supermarket lunch section. But if it's her, she'll want to sit down somewhere, and heaven forbid it be a McDonald's, or something cheap. So we end up spending £20 to £30 on lunch, when I would have spent probably no more than £5. If I go to the supermarket, I will head straight for the things I need and buy only them. If she's with me, we'll end up buying loads more because it's on offer. It's not saving you money if you weren't going to buy it in the first place. Story 4. The money thing is huge though. I always managed money well and had plenty of extra when I was single, but no matter how many times I talk to my wife about cutting back on overspending, it only helps for maybe a week or two, if I'm lucky. But the worst thing for me is knowing that every time my wife leaves the house, she will somehow be spending money. Even if it's just for something like a quick trip, 3 minutes down the road to drop something at the post office. She will stop for coffee, food, or swing by the grocery store. I have this feeling of dread every time she leaves the house. I've talked to her about it, and before specific errands, I will bring it up and ask her to just do the thing without other stops. But even with that commitment, she still does it. Story 5. Having someone talk to you all the time. I used to be quite quiet, as my ex would constantly tell me how much he didn't care about a topic I was talking about. I was literally only allowed to talk about things we were both into. I went to Japan on my own and was so excited and wanted to talk about what I'd planned, what I'd booked, etc. And he told me straight up, I don't care. Stop talking about it. Now I'm with my current partner and I have become such a yapper, haha. I feel so much more comfortable saying what I like, and my partner makes me feel so secure and comfortable, and he likes to listen to me. Most of the time, haha. I save my yapping when he's working, and we have a catch-up after work. Story 6. Accountability to someone else but yourself. Obligations. I'm learning this myself. My first marriage ended when he realized this sexuality, but while married, he didn't care where I went, how long I was gone, or even if I left in the middle of the night. Recently, I got tied up at work and didn't text my second husband. He was upset with me, not angry, just very worried. I'm learning that I'm not invisible and that I can't be nomadic now. It's not an easy thing to learn, honestly. Old habits and all that. Story 7. Losing hobbies or interests because your spouse does not like them. So many people stop doing things they used to love because their spouse does not like or has not interest in. My friend used to like action movies, his wife does not. Time and time again I have witnessed him say I want to watch that new action movie, and she goes, no, we are not watching that. Sometimes I wonder why people get married when they have basically nothing in common. I mean, you could probably find someone who enjoys doing the same things you do. If you are married, and you cannot really think of a single hobby, activity that you would both enjoy doing together. For me at least, I do not want to be always told, no, we are not doing that. Or always have to drag my partner to events, activities they do not enjoy. Some compromise, sure, but if I am not enjoying myself 50% of the time, I don't think I want to be in that situation. Story 8. Having to run things by someone else, even if they are small and only impact me. And having to hear opinions about the behavioral changes I decide to make. Like, if I decide I want to limit my red meat consumption as a single person, I can just do it without having to justify it. I don't have to endure someone's argument about how that is unnecessary, or unhealthy, or burdensome. And if I later decide to change my mind, I don't have to listen to someone's told you so. As a single person, I am free to be as dynamic as I want to be. I can ditch a lifestyle and adopt another without worrying about someone's feelings. Story 9. Getting caught up in relationship issues, while in reality it doesn't even matter. Example, you get into a disagreement with your spouse about which way to load the dishwasher. Things escalate, you're now sleeping on the couch and didn't get much sleep that night. You have to go to work feeling like a sack of crap. You then have to come back to said argument the next day, rehash things, try to smooth things over, take the time and effort to do all that. So you're spending all this time and effort over just utter nonsense. This is what is taking your mental energy and time. This is your focus in life right now. This is your world right now. Meanwhile, if you were single, you wouldn't be dealing with this kind of crap. And really, it's just utter nonsense at the end of the day. You would be just going about your day focusing on real issues, not just made up crap between you and your partner. Really makes me want to keep staying single. Story 10. Having to live up to someone else's expectations, as well as your own. I'm struggling with stuff, as before we got married, but now it's out there in the open, it affects another person. I don't even live up to my own expectations. He gets upset and frustrated when I don't complete my side of the housework. I'm already upset with myself. I work full-time, and when I'm having a bad day because of my issues, I can't come home and clean. It piles up. Anything that affects me affects him. Anything bad that happens to me affects him. Anytime I mess up, it's not just me who's dealing with the consequences now. If I were to wait until I were a fixed and stable person, I'd never get married. I also need to clarify I did warn him thoroughly of my issues before we got married. I will also clarify I'm working very hard on myself and have made measurable improvements. Story 11. Deal with extended family members that I heavily dislike nor get on with. Worse is to have to help them or get involved with their problems. I almost married into a family with parents like that. My ex's dad was a mostly normal dude with a polite and happy lil family. His mom's family lived on one large collective rural property with trailers and sheds used as housing. That itself was not a problem at all. The issue was how many neglected kids were on that property. After visiting multiple times, I never figured out what kids belonged to who. All 10+ kids lived in the main trailer together. There weren't enough bedrooms for them, obviously, and only a few had their own dedicated beds. The grandfather who had SA'd his own sons back in the day was allowed on the property and was there frequently without any kind of supervision. Every time I was there, he would tell me how shameful I didn't believe in God and give me a sermon. There were 2 baby mamas living on the property who were no longer with the original family members they started dating. One woman was single and bringing strange men to the property constantly. The other left one of the brothers after he went to prison and started dating another brother. The original brother was back from prison and living in a shed out back that he got electricity and plumbing to. He bought that shed by doing credit card fraud. That wasn't the reason he went to prison. He got in a fight where he shot someone, and their wound got so infected they went septic and died. Story 12. When my wife sits down in the living room, sees what I'm watching and says, "Can't we watch something we both want to watch?" This means she wants me to put on Friends on Netflix for the millionth time so she can ignore it and stare at her phone. She does not like when I point out that she can stare at her phone while I'm watching what I want to watch. Or, sitting to watch TV with your spouse, letting them pick the show only to watch them scroll on FB videos the entire time. Wash, rinse, repeat this a few dozen times. You never complain after all, they enjoy it, and it's no skin off your back really. Then, one day, after the 50th episode of Young Sheldon, you snap. It doesn't feel like quality time when you're only watching what they want to watch, and besides, they aren't really watching anyway. The next time you say, hey, let's find something we can both enjoy. You proceed to find movies or shows with a mix of what you both enjoy, only to be told, I hate that actor. Or I heard that was bad. You try to bargain, you liked this show a lot, right? This one is very similar in plot, we should give it a shot. What do we have to lose? No, just doesn't look good. I'm gonna put on Young Sheldon. I think Netflix put the new season up. Then they put on their shows, stare at their phone, and completely ignore the fact that they dismissed your entire presence, your opinions, feelings, and attempts to spend quality time with them, mostly. Story 13. You have to meet the in-laws and get to know them, let alone accept them and them, you. And the crap thing is, they can change your mind about you 10 years in. My Mill was my biggest fan, called me her bonus kid when we were out, would gift me the best and most thoughtful gifts, invited me to dinner with my Sil a couple times a month, bond over our mutual interests, and we had great times together. Truly. I left town and my partner for some time to care for my incapacitated granny, which Mill did not understand and refused to try to. She vilified my mother instead for not going. She had 2 kids in HS. Turns out that being the type of woman to stop your life so you can care for your ailing granny is unforgivable. My Mill now gifts me gray socks for Christmas, 4 years strong, ignores my birthday, didn't even call or text me when my dad died. We don't see her often anymore because of the passive-aggressive comments and blatant favoritism. You'd think she'd want to play the long game with me. It's very likely I'll raise kids that will also love and care for their grandparents the way I was. The ones they'll know and love, anyway, LOL. Anyway, I guess I needed to about my Mill today. Story 14. I think the bigger change was going from a childless married couple to new parents. That's a loss of solitude at a level that I can't fairly compare to anything else, including going from single life to married life. Do I miss some aspects of being alone in my apartment when I was single? Sure, but the house is big enough, I love my spouse, and we survived a pandemic together in a tiny condo. As a new parent, though, I miss being able to do what I wanted for an entire Saturday afternoon without having any boundaries of activities, expectations of time frame to return, exchange of timeshare bargaining for a later time, or drawing some social debt to repay for babysitting coverage. Making time for myself as a new parent is like a debit-credit system of my time. If I want to do anything, I have to draw credit from my spouse and/or the grandparents and repay said favor at a later time. There is no my time. It's none's fault either, not my kids, not my spouse's, not anybody's. It's just the sacrifice of self that came with becoming a parent. Story 15. Not married, but in a long-term committed relationship. I do sometimes miss the freedom of being able to not do whatever I wanted. If I wanted to lay around the house in my underwear drinking beer and playing video games all day, I could. If I wanted to let the laundry wait a few more days, I could. If I wanted to wake up at 6 a.m. and go for a run, I could. I mean, I still can do all those things, but I also have to take into account my so's feelings. Like I may want to lay around boozing and gaming today, but she may have friends coming over. I may want to go for a run at 6 a.m., but my alarm would wake her up way early than she wants to. I'm fine with the trade-off in general, but anyone who says there aren't times they miss the freedom of being single is lying. This also doesn't mean they want to break it off and be single again. It's just waxing nostalgically. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your those in the comment below.